Morning. I'd like to call the Executive Committee meeting for December 21st to order. If we can get a roll call, please.
Mr. Lear? Present. Mr. Hess? Present. Ms. Polk?
Here.
Ms. Weber?
Present.
Mr. Payton? Ms. Parker?
Present.
Mr. Kinzinger? Present. Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Carrico? Present. Ms. Zuccolo? Mr. Featherling?
Present.
Mr. Miller?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Seroy? We have a quorum.
Thank you. No public comment. There are no public comment today. Looking in the back. Approval of minutes, November 19th, 2020. Is there a motion on that? Approval of the minutes. Mr. Hess, a second. Zoom.
Fairfield.
Mr. Fairfield. Any questions, comments? Mr. Lear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to have one addition to the minutes showing that in that discussion on the program for employees where the county had to opt in or opt out, executive committee, it was stated that this issue would be passed on to the full board.
Okay. We'll make sure that that's added, but otherwise everything else okay?
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's do roll call on Zoom, please.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
In the room, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. While we're at it, can I get a motion to accept the quarterly report, put that on file for the VAC, the monthly report, quarterly for schools, monthly report for the VAC, the staffing report, and I believe that's all the, that's all the usual reports. Is there a motion on that, please? Mr. Carrico, a second. Mr. Lear, can I get roll call on Zoom, please?
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
All those in the room, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I have a quick question.
Mr. Featherling.
Kelly didn't call on either one of those votes, and the one before either. Thought I was supposed to be here.
He should be. He's on executive as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't calling him for Zoom. I'm sorry. I didn't have you on Zoom.
Is that aye on both accounts, Mr. Featherling?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thought maybe you didn't
Thank
get
you,
the
Mr.
memo.
Chair.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Moving on, under legislative, is there anything that you have, Steve, that you
Nothing at this time.
singled out? Okay. There'll be a little bit coming up, just some very brief things under legislative and some of the associations we're part of down the road here. IS, Kevin Duval. Kevin, you on the call?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I can do it however you want to. I know you got 2 meetings you got to get through. I can give you a brief update. It hasn't changed much from what I told you last meeting, but I can give you a quick update, or if you want to move on.
Please, yeah, whatever you got going you think the committee needs to know about.
Okay. We've been extremely busy here, as you could guess. We still have departments that are forced to move people around based on spacing for the COVID-related reasons. Each one of those requires a service call, because once you move them, you've got to move their wires, the computers, their networks, so it's quite a bit of a deal. In addition, with so many departments having their people go home, we have a lot of service calls because people are working at home over VPN, which if you've never done before, it can be challenging, to say the least. It's dramatically increased our service calls on that. They've done some things that you could expect them to do, being new to it, such as they're working on it, they think they're logging off, they shut down their computer. You shut down your computer, you can't come back in. Well, it seems like a little deal, except that that's 4 buildings away. And I got to send Jason or somebody over there. So you do that 20, 30 times. That's a lot more service calls you have to go through, printing issues. So all of that is just something you could expect if you send people home. In addition, we began the process that I've discussed before of updating the court's servers. That's, as I've said in the past, that's going to be a long process. For the most part, we've done our part, but we have to coordinate with CourtView, the service vendor or the software vendor for the court system. We have to be in their queue, which we are, and then we need to coordinate because there's a certain portion they have to do to finish that. It's to be expected, but there's no way to speed that up. They're a national company, so you get in the queue, they don't just have us. That seems to be going well, but again, that's another thing we have to grab when we have to. Some of that's after work or weekend on our part. That's a hardware switchover, as I've discussed. That does not address what Sandy's been addressed in the Public Safety Commission. It basically, or Safety Committee. While it may give them somewhat an increase in performance because the servers are 10 years newer, it's not addressing the problems she has. What they're doing now was at my suggestion that your hardware was just too old. You're asking for trouble. The judges had no problem upgrading, so we began that process. Also, for the court system, speaking about the 2 things I just did, I'm proposing that I've sent something, or I sit down with the chairman. I haven't have a chance to directly talk to Andy about this. Is I want to improve the bandwidth at the court system. Because of what they're doing with Zoom meetings and so many people going home, whether they come back or not, we need to have a more reliable internet access over there. What's working, it's working now, but it's working because I've rerouted them over to our system. In the past, what I've always had is we have internet, they have internet. If something goes wrong, we have a failover. We don't really have that right now. They do still have the Comcast business, but if anybody's had that for our level of production, it's not reliable enough. So what I'm going to propose to the chairman is we're going to break out the fiber that we have here. We have more than we need here. I've talked to AT&T, who is our service provider for fiber. We're going to bring it into the court system. That's my proposal. Andy has to approve it. We're going to bring it into the building there, and we're going to split what we have here, which is excess, and send it over and provide it to the courts over there, and have them just as reliable as what we have over here, plus it ends up being our failover if something goes over. So it'll be back to where we used to be, but even better. That, what I'm proposing should be zero cost to the county. We're just going to reallocate resources. Let's talk to AT&T. I should say it should be close to zero. You never know if it's actually zero, but by doing this, I'll be able to shut down some other things that we're doing, and those savings should make up for any difference there is. But number one thing, we want to have the court system with internet access, which is just as reliable that we have here, and it's something that's very doable. Again, I'll have to discuss that with the chairman to make sure he feels comfortable with that, but the cost should be minimal, if nothing. Previously, when they asked us to put things into the budget for this year's budget, I did put a minimum amount that if we had to go over, would definitely cover for it. So it's my expectation by doing this will dramatically improve the reliability of the internet access, the court system, and it should be minimum to no cost to the county. And basically, I'm leaving up for any questions you may have.
Kevin, I appreciate that. Subject matter experts are good on that topic. Mr. Swanson, do you have any thoughts on that immediately, or is this something you'd want to think about and weigh in on at another time? Okay, so the we'll recircle that. I see the need, so we'll talk about the technical side of it when we get a chance. Because Joe has a professional dedication to what you're talking about, I would like to get his opinion as well. But I pretty much agree with you. Any questions for Kevin regarding those activities? People working from home? Anything else? Sounds good. Appreciate it, Kevin. All right. Let's see. Moving on. Health Department, Mr. Beavis. He's here live and in person today.
Good morning. The vaccine's here.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to say a big, humongous thank you to the sheriff, Sheriff Downey, and the EMA staff last Wednesday, the 16th, for assisting us with the escort to take myself and another representative from the health department to go up to Oak Lawn, which is where our vaccine was delivered, along with Will County's. The state had a very secure process in which they wanted that to be delivered to everybody, those first 50 counties of which we were among. They were a big value and assist. We got up there, we got the package, we brought it back, we then broke it up and delivered it to both Amita and Riverside. So the total doses that were handed out with that first week's shipment that was sent to us was 1,570 doses between the two hospitals, and it was divided up with a third going to Amita because of their population size and 2/3 going to Riverside based on their population size, along with the equipment that came along with that vaccine. The plan from the state at the beginning was to have all those vaccinations take place within the hospitals, not just in Kankakee County, but everywhere they were delivered, just to help assist if there were going to be any issues with anybody having any kind of side effects or reactions in regards to the shot. As of this morning, I'm being told that between the two hospitals, they were able to administer 1,558 of those, because over the weekend we received additional information that indicated, originally we were told that the vaccine vials had 5 doses per vial. It was later determined, I guess, once they began to draw the individual vaccinations out of those vials to give the vaccination, they were getting 6 and sometimes 7 shots out of those bottles, the vials, as opposed to the 5. So they were actually able to give more. So that's a promising thing in regards to the Pfizer vaccine, and then we'll see what happens with Moderna, that vaccine, when we get that. That being said, there were 100 vials over the weekend. So with those, with the Pfizer vaccine, one of the key components there, because that's an ultra cold vaccine, had to be stored at the -80, which it was when it left Peoria and then was distributed to Oak Lawn and then down to Kankakee County. After that, it started a 5-day clock, because now it's going to start thawing and you have to keep it at a refrigerated temperature. It can no longer be refrozen. And so it has a 5-day shelf life. So as of 7 o'clock this morning, all those doses would have needed to have been administered, or you would have to waste whatever you did not use. So over the weekend, it was determined that there were approximately 100 vials, and with the hospitals having saturated, is the word we're using, all the individuals at that point that were interested in getting the Pfizer or wanted to get a shot at that point, and a number of individuals were not interested in getting their vaccines yet, we then made arrangements with the state and transferred the last 100 doses to Morris, Grundy County, a hospital up there, so that they could begin utilizing it. Otherwise, that would have been 100 vials here that would have gone to waste. So that was approved by the state to be able to do, and then that was transferred yesterday. So this morning, what we're waiting to, once I leave this meeting, I'll be meeting with my staff again to talk about the next shipment we're supposed to get, which we don't know how much that's going to be. We do know that it's Moderna, though. So now that's the one that can be stored at a not so cold temperature, which we have the capability of doing at the health department now. And you can store for up to 30 days before you would have to, administer it. So it has a longer shelf life than the Pfizer does. So that's going to be favorable to where we can work out this timing, because unfortunately what we're being hit with is a lot of individuals appear to be more interested in receiving the Moderna one than the Pfizer one for whatever reasons. You're able to store the Moderna one longer than you do the Pfizer one, which is helpful. But Christmas and New Year's vacations is not being kind to us here in relation to having this shipped out. At the health department, we're short-staffed typically at Christmas anyway. I'm sure most county offices are. A lot of people will take the end of the year for vacations on any other year besides COVID. And, a lot of the people who we would be reaching out to try to get them vaccinated at this point aren't, they're closed or not operating or short-staffed themselves. So we're trying to, when I leave this meeting, we're going to be trying to coordinate then how much do we want to order, because the state wants us to order these vaccines week to week to week. So it's not like we're going to just say, hey, we want 40,000 that we're going to give to the rest of Kankakee County that's interested. We have to order these week to week to week, and it's going to be dependent upon how many people receive those vaccinations from week to week to week. And as we go through this tiered approach that the state has set up for us, starting with the phase 1A, which is the healthcare workers and the long-term care residents and those workers that work with them. Phase 1B is the essential workers, and we haven't gotten there yet. And in fact, the state hasn't even decided who officially that is going to be. They've given us some ideas, but it's not official. I couldn't tell you, and then they changed their minds. So, and then there's phase 1C, which are the adults with the high risk categories. And then we move into phase 2, which are the older adults that don't have any of those first three. And then phase 4, or phase 3, I guess it is the general population, which they're not expecting until spring. Or it may speed up based upon the amount of vaccines that start getting delivered to everybody. We literally at the health department are living by the hour. Just to give you a point of reference, we were looking back at some of the records from the H1N1. We had that vaccine for a month and a half prior to having any kind of clinics. We were able to do all the kind of training that we needed to do. We were ready to go. We knew where we were going to go. With this situation, we don't know what we're getting from week to week. And it isn't because of something that we're not doing correctly at the health department. It's because the state's not really forthcoming or even knows themselves what they're getting in relation to them, what they're going to send down to those health departments, such as Kankakee. So when we know, we will put it out there on our information to let everyone else know. But we have to work through the specific groups first, which is what we're doing. So initially, our plan is to go out to a number of these facilities with little teams of our workers or contractual workers that would go to, say, the fire departments or the police stations or the village halls or somewhere like that to vaccinate those individuals. And once those are done and we start to reach closer to that general population stage, then we'll be looking at doing a larger open pod vaccination kind of event. So that's my report there for at least with the vaccine right now. So if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 questions. One, I gathered individual would have a choice between Pfizer and Moderna if they once or both in the county?
Possibly, yes. It's going to be dependent. There are going to be a number of agencies, pharmacies. The health department, for example, does not have the capability to store Pfizer on site. I believe there's only 1 or 2 places within the county that does. If those facilities are registered to order the vaccine and administer the vaccine and they order the Pfizer, then that's what would be given at that location. And they may publicize that that's what they're giving, yes. But otherwise, for example, anything in the health department possibly from here on out would be doing would be Pfizer. or even if a third vaccine provider comes out, such as Johnson & Johnson, for example, if and when that's approved, because there's talk that that one might be a one-shot vaccination as opposed to the two, and some people might be waiting for that one because they just don't want to have to get a second shot. So I think that information would be made available, and obviously when an individual goes to get vaccinated, wherever they go, whether it's at the health department, the hospital, or a pharmacy as we move forward, or at a long-term care facility, they will be given a card that indicates what vaccine they got that day, and they have to have that one again on their second shot. It can't be Pfizer 1 week and Moderna the next, or vice versa. It has to be the same shot.
Second question. I know I've been read that states have some flexibility in terms of their criteria of who's eligible. I heard some reports that 1B would include people over 75, any adult over 75. Has the state said anything like that yet?
At this point, I would say that answer is no. That is more of the phase 1C. The 1B is more of the critical essential workers, such as your educators, your teachers, agricultural workers, the food processing plants, and large industries.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Hunter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Beavis, I indicated I'd probably be asking you several questions. Last Friday on CNN, and I kind of discussed this with the chairman, I saw a fabulous program, and it was called The Color of COVID. My comments will probably be more macro than color. And I know that the chairman meets with the two CEOs of MEDA and Riverside. And this particular program, which I saw Friday night from 9 till 10, I could have sat there for another 3 or 4 hours listening to the information that they provided. The panelists were, in the first chair was Dr. Fauci, and his approval rating in this country is just through the roof. Sanjay Gupta, which is a famous surgeon as well too on CNN, and he's a consultant, and you see him universally. Additionally, they had Don Lemon, who was the convener, the moderator, but they had a church leader from Boston, and they had the president of the medical school of Morehouse in Atlanta. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that would it be possible, and I discussed this with the chairman, if possibly the CEOs of MEDA, Riverside, the county chairman, as well as physicians, have some kind of panel where it's live streaming in terms of the masses in this county could see and hear, call in, and pose questions to you guys, because I found it to be very enlightening and very educational. This information that you're imparting right now, I know it's being streamed, but additional players need to be up there or wherever at a different venue talking about what the plan is, for us, taking in consideration seniors who are terrified. They don't know if it's going to have an adverse impact. People who look like me bring up Tuskegee, the experiments and stuff. And I talked with one of the largest black church in the county. I called him at 10 o'clock when it was over, Reverend Crawford, and I said, what do you think we should do? And I explained what I'd seen. He said, I'm in. We need to convince people to take advantage of this. Just a week ago, I buried a relative who had COVID. The funeral home where I took him, where he was taken, they had 7 bodies there, 6 of which were COVID. So that's bad stuff. You guys see that every day. I'm just wondering I got a couple other comments. What do you think about something like that? The The chairman said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. What do you think?
I wouldn't be opposed to that type of a situation. We've done a couple of collaborative press conferences in the past. If this is more of a question and answer panel typical to what's being done, at least I feel more comfortable now moving forward from last week into where I sit today, that at least the answers are starting to become more, concrete to where we're grabbing some traction here. At least we know now we have a vaccine. We know what it is, and we started to give it. We can see what side effects are or aren't in relation to helping to appease a lot of those questions and concerns that some individuals have that either don't believe they need to get it or are scared to get it or feel that there's something in it, and try to explain some of the, the higher risk populations that are more capable of getting this COVID and being impacted by it, but are also maybe listening to the wrong media in regards to that they're not going to, when they're exactly the most important group that probably should be getting it.
So I'll be interfacing with the chairman on that stuff. And also, could you clarify a little bit more? You indicated that 100 vials were sent elsewhere from Kankakee. Could there have been alternative uses for the population in Kankakee County?
The state has been very clear that we have to follow this tiered approach. So it was all the hospital workers, doctors, nurses, those individuals paid by those facilities, and then the long-term care facilities, staff. So those are being taken care of through a collaboration with some of the pharmacies, CVS and Walgreens. As a result of that, we have a call-down list that the health department has been working with. So we had Plan B in place, but due to the fact that we had 5 days, 7 o'clock today was going to be the time when the vaccine turned back into a pumpkin, for example, we were limited into what we could do. So we attempted to call a number of doctors' facilities, and it had to be done in a hospital. So we were literally trying to call people, bring them, come, and we were running out of names, at least within this list, to maintain for the state. And as a result of that, the state health department then suggested then transfer that other 100 doses to another location. We tried to get it down to Iroquois first, but ultimately I think they're on the shipment for this week, and so probably they've already got, theirs scheduled. So it was determined that it would go to Morris, and they were accepting it.
I hear you. Let me ask you this. Shapiro Developmental Center has in excess of 1,000, 1,100 employees. Now, what category do they fall into?
My understanding is that that's going to be an organization or an agency that's getting taken care of. The health department will not be responsible, or need to be responsible, I should say, for a Shapiro, for the Manteno sites, for any of these long-term care facilities. We've reached out to them. They all have their medical personnel registered in the system to be able to receive these and administer them themselves, or they'll be getting those vaccinations through the collaboration of the CVS and Walgreens of the world.
And would you be, my last comment, would you be adverse to doing a Zoom with the religious community as well, too, and all the, the rabbis, and all those folks, the Baptist ministers and so forth? I'm a Methodist. Dealing with them?
No, I would not. I know that that's, you bring up a good point, and that's something that I'll be talking to the team about this morning in relation to some things that I've read and seen outside of Illinois in relation to where we are trying to figure out where can we go to send our teams of individuals to vaccinate people. We are discussing the possibility that we'll have to have evening sessions. We are discussing the possibility that we may have to have weekend sessions. And if we have a Zoom meeting, for example, and it goes well and that convinces people, it's possible that we may set up a clinic on a Sunday after a service where you have a larger crowd together, and it's possible then that you see you know, if I see my friend getting that shot, then I'm going to get that shot, because if he did it, then I'm going to do it.
Mr. Hess, did you have something?
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. John, what's the grace period for the Pfizer? 21 days or 28 days?
For the second shot,
For the second shot, right.
Is there any other questions for John?
that's not on here. All the information's
Mike,
on there.
My follow-up on that is going to be, we gave 100 vials away. What happens if the vials we get in don't have enough to give that 100 vials away again? What happens if it only got the 5 in it instead of the 7?
If I understand your question correctly, what's happening is these 1,570 doses that came to Kankakee County were strictly first shot doses.
Correct.
So we don't have the second shot yet. That will be sent to us later, and then ultimately what we'll need to do is then make sure then that 100 replacements would be sent to Morris at that point to make sure then that those individuals that are getting those shots last night and as of this morning would get the, because you have to have, as I said, that same vaccine.
Correct, but my question is, what happens if you don't get the 7 doses out of one vial? What happens if you're only getting 5 out and you don't have that quantity? Who's going to get short soon?
I don't know that there's going to be a shortage in the future. It's just that this very first shipment, because there were only 85,000 doses throughout the state that were going to go to 50 counties, we were allotted 1,570. Once the Modernas of the world and more vaccine is readily available, we can order more at that point and have more available, because we know that there's, you know, if 50% of the individuals in the county are interested in getting a shot, that's at least about 55,000 individuals that ultimately would be vaccinated. So there will be more and more vaccine as they start cranking it out, and we can order more. We aren't just held to getting that one little bit and then there won't be enough in the future. We will, from week to week to week, we will start getting more and more and more, and then that's when we are able to, you know, go down this list a lot quicker. And the faster they get it out, the faster we can get to the yellow and the general population. It shouldn't be an issue that there's going to be any problem being able to get those second shots to those individuals that went to Morris.
Is any other questions for John?
Mr. Chairman, I have one for John.
Yes, Mr. Featherwing.
Morning, John.
Morning.
Who's going to decide? Is Walgreens and CVS going to decide who's compromised and who's not compromised, or is that up to doctors to decide that?
That is a collaboration between those agencies, those pharmacies, and the state health department to provide the vaccines to the healthcare workers and the patients at those facilities. So that decision is not being made at the health department level.
Yeah, but I mean, who's going to decide? Walgreens? They don't have anybody. They don't have everybody's medical records there.
You're an idiot. Stop talking.
I'm not sure I understand that the vaccine is being made available to anybody that wants it. They would be going in and administering. They have the individuals who are qualified to give a vaccine shot, and then they will go in and at the direction of the medical staff of the long-term care facility would be then giving the shot to all the staff and all the patients that want to get the shot.
No, I'm talking about, it would be, I think you called it B1B or something, where you're going to seniors that are compromised.
Well, okay, so 1C is listed right now as, I see what you're saying, adults with high-risk medical conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, at that point, you know, if people are, we have discussed this. If individuals are presenting in line at that point, we're not going to necessarily be declining to allow them to get the shot if we have enough vaccine available. You know, like carding for alcohol to determine if you're 21 and over or not. nobody really has a card that says I have these underlying medical conditions or I can't prove that I do have underlying medical conditions. At that
Right.
point, if they appear to be within the age group and the vaccine's available, we will be giving that vaccine.
Okay, so being compromised, it won't have any effect on when you get it then?
Not at that phase. And again,
Okay.
these rules will I mean, right now I'm living in phase 1A and they haven't even told us officially who is in 1B.
Okay,
So I can't even think about 1C.
okay. So as soon as you know, then everybody will get notified somehow that it's available?
Yes, and that was expressed recently that, and again, we're literally finding some of this information out within hours. As I said, we were supposed to order Moderna this week. We were told Saturday night. It's Sunday, and we're told we might get it before Christmas. Might. And
Okay.
in which case, it's too soon to even do any kind of a vaccination event, the day before Christmas. So at least there, the benefit is that this can be stored for up to 30 days, and that will allow us time to contact all the facilities, agencies, places that qualify within the list the parameters that we're supposed to be operating in with at that time.
Okay, thank you, John.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? All right, appreciate the updates, and I'm sure if there's something that the board needs to hear, you'll send it our direction.
Yes, as
Thank
soon as I know, we'll try.
We'll give you 5-10
Yes,
minutes after you
okay.
find out.
I would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and please let 2021 be much better than this one was.
Amen. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Long.
You ready?
I'm just hitting every button I got. yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to take a minute to thank you and your staff for everything that you've done. You've been living in crisis mode since February or March. I'm sure you're all tired. I'm sure you're at the end of your ropes, but it seems like you guys are doing a great job, so thank you.
Thank you. I will let them know that, and I am ruining the day now that I've given some of these people vacations this week of Christmas, not knowing that we were going to get vaccine dropped in our lap at the same time.
Merry Christmas to you.
I would agree with Mr. Long on that one, for sure.
I appreciate all the support everybody's been giving.
Moving on to, I don't think Dr. Murphy, are you on the call? No? Mr. Fairfield, did you have something? Don't go running out of here, John. Hold on. You're on mute, bud.
I don't have anything. I was just applauding Mr. Beavis.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Similar comments from Mr. Fairfield, John. So he's been corralled by Mr. Hunter, so he appreciates that, I'm sure. So we moving on. Mr. Murphy is not on the call, I believe. We've already approved the quarterly report. It's on file. Is anyone from the VAC? I see Karen on there. Do you have anything, Karen?
I don't. I just wanted to be present in case anybody had questions, since I hadn't turned in reports for a couple months. So if anybody has anything, I think our office did really well considering being closed for 2.5, 3 months or whatever. So.
Is there any questions for Karen in VAC?
Karen.
Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. There's strict prohibitions. I know when I came to your office, I misplaced my dad's DD-214. There's no way getting a replacement of that at all for posterity?
So, Mr. Hunter, we do have it, but you have to prove your
He's
lineage
my daddy,
to him.
yeah.
So just
I
your birth certificate will do that. That's not a problem. You just need to present that, and then we can give that to you.
Oh, no, that's clarifying. Okay, that wasn't explained to me because I was a little ready.
Yeah. We weren't even for sure we could get it, so until we knew, it didn't even matter. So we did find it, so it's there for you once you have your birth certificate for us.
And if you don't have that on you, I'm sure that Mr. Hendrickson might be able to give you one for
I
a
was
small
born
fee.
at St. Mary's over there. Yeah, Daddy was born in South Schuyler, 1922. The house is not there now. I'll do that.
Anyone else for Karen? All right, thanks, Karen. Moving on.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
You too. Anita Speckman, County Administrator's Report.
Good morning, everyone. You have the staffing report in front of you,
after last month, we said it will probably be pretty quiet till after the first of the year. That's not what happened. We had a whole bunch of both terminations and then rehires. So you'll see from the report, there were 13 terminations and 4 rehires. Now, 4 of the terminations and then rehires were on the county board. So that kind of skews it a little bit there. But as you can see, there was other activity there. We did terminate one of our door stewards, was one of our temporary COVID positions. And so that door, the front door of the administration building, as if you've been in the building, you now know, is not manned by a person, but by a device hanging on the wall that takes your temperature and makes sure that you're wearing a mask. So there were some issues with that as we went through. In the beginning, we had 90% of people showing a temperature too low. So I worked with Wes on, we determined, or Wes's group kind of determined, that the air in that vestibule is too cold. So we're working to fix that. And then there were a few other things. Right now we have a piece of cardboard taped on the wall to try and stop the cold air from hitting there. But we went from a failure rate of about 90% the first day we put it in to about a 10% failure rate. So there's still some issues with it. I will say this, make sure if you're entering the building, 1, you must have a mask on. It will not open the door if you don't have a mask on. Number 2, if you have a hat on or glasses or hair that reaches your forehead, not a problem for some people, not pointing fingers, you have to move that out of the way so that it can actually temperature, have a direct contact with you. We have some problems with people either being too close or too far away, but overall, I'll say that it's a lot less of an issue than working through temporary employees and making sure it's staffed down there. And we had quite a few issues there with even those people being exposed to COVID. So it's been pretty quiet the last week. So I think Wes and I have most of the bugs worked out there from what we hear. Any questions about the staffing report or the building access there, that what we've done to change that?
I had one question. The totals, I didn't know if a line was missing or it was an extra one. It says plus 12 minus 13, and it looks like by adding them up, it's plus 11 minus 12. I didn't know if there was one on there that was, it's clerical. It's not a big deal.
It's a manual process, so I'll go back and check it.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I just want to make sure there wasn't something missing that was, or in there that shouldn't.
I put the people on, but then I have to go back and manually, and sometimes, you have to, I missed somebody or I didn't catch something, so.
It's not a big deal. Just thought I'd wonder. Mr. Kinzinger, sorry.
Just a point of clarification, the terminations primarily were job elimination or people got a different job, or was there any terminations due to non-performance?
I don't really track the difference, but I will say overall it's voluntary resignations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about the report? Anything else from you, Anita, for the board, for the committee?
Just wanted to mention that we are most of the way through open enrollment. The census really didn't change at all, in that 89% of our employees are on one plan, and that's the PPO with $1,000 deductible. So that continues to be by far the most popular plan. So that's it. Kelly has done a fantastic job. She handled all those phone calls coming in. So I think this is our 3rd year doing our open enrollment via a video and people logging in to the tool themselves. So really people really have the hang of it. And now what they ask is, when's the video going to be there? Not when's our meeting, but when is the video going up? So in terms of what happened this year with COVID, we had 2 years practice of how to do it remotely. So worked out well.
Any questions for Anita? All right, we appreciate it. Moving on to administrative issues. Under appointments, we have a large list. Is there a motion to combine and approve on those? Mr. Long, second.
Second.
Ms. Parker. I'll go ahead and read them into the record. Appointment of Andrew Wheeler to the Isaco Large County Caucus. Appointment of Anita Speckman as an alternate to the Isaco Large County Caucus. Appointment of Alice Tinker Parker to the Isaco Large County Caucus. Appointment of Stephen Lear to the Isaco Legislative Committee. Appointment of Antonio Carrico to the Kankakee County Board of Health. Appointment of Ray Fairfield to the ICANN Joint Education Committee. Reappointment of Alice Tinker Parker to the ICANN Joint Education Committee. Reappointment of Stephen Lear to the ICANN Joint Education Committee. We have a motion and a second. Unless there's questions, roll call vote. Go ahead.
Mr. Lear?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Kinzier?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico? Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The Mr. Carrico's appointment, is that to fill the rest of the term? I believe that's the way that was. Okay, and we'll get you those details on what that time period is. Usually it's for a set amount of time, but obviously you're filling the board member spot. Under openings, 3 openings, Mantino number 9 Drainage District, 1 on the Moments and Yellowhead Drainage District number 1, 3 on Pembroke or Moments Pembroke Union Drainage number 1, 1 opening on Raymond Drainage District, 1 on Spring Creek Drainage District, 1 on Union Drainage District number 2, 1 opening Yellowhead Washington Union Drainage District 2, 8 openings on the Kankakee County Regional Planning Commission, 1 opening each on the Essex Township Fire Protection District, Kankakee Township Fire Protection District, and Kankakee River Conservancy District. Moving on to new business. This is, I'll read the title. I believe it's amending county ordinance on public comment during public health emergency. Ms. Nicholson, did you want to address this?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, board members. So Mr. Lear went to a meeting and he brought it to our attention that we may need to address this portion of our county code. I think when we first did the emergency procedures for public comment, none of us envisioned we would be doing this almost for a year. I don't think any of us thought we would be in COVID protocol for this long. So Section 2-68 of our county code addresses public commentary. So we're working on amending that. Not that we're going to specifically put this is what our procedure specifically will be, but we want to have protocol, or we want to at least let the public know if for some reason NIEMA or the governor or for whatever reason an emergency declaration is made or public safety is an issue and getting to the building for public comment is not possible, how we're going to start kind of the process of allowing for emergency comment. So for example, if this gets triggered, we're going to put notification on our Facebook page. We're going to maybe put it on an answering service at the county building. They can call in a number. We're going to let local radios know and kind of what the procedure is. I think the board has handled public comment very well. I think we've allowed the public still to have access to speak, and that is the most important. The most important thing to showing that we're transparent and working with our constituents is the fact that you've allowed them to still speak, and I think it's worked really well. We just want to make sure now that it's part of our code. So going forward, if this ever happens again, we're prepared for it.
It's a pretty simple explanation. We need to codify everything we've been doing. That was I was on the same call with Mr. Lear and the legal representatives that were hosting the call. Sorry, it's a little bit further away. The legal representatives that were helping us out on the call is county boards and members and the like, basically said you need to have it codified. So I appreciate your help on that, Nancy. Getting that done. Is there any questions about that? And we'll see the final form for the full board meeting, but it's just getting it done. So, is there a motion? What do we? I don't have it here in the packet. I don't believe it. The resolution. Do we have one drawn?
We don't have it done yet. No. Mr. Rowe and I had a meeting last week, and we discussed. It's come to Mr. Rowe's attention, and as we've gone through certain issues, that he's going through the county board procedure part of the code. We just want to make sure that we're in compliance with what needs to be. That we haven't gone through it in quite a few years, so he's working on that because he was interested in doing that, and so we're kind of working through that part. So we're in the process of working on this part about public comment, and then he's going to start working on other things because we're trying to get ready for trainings. So we want to make sure that everything is in order.
Oh, okay. I see. Getting ready for the OMA training and Robert's Rules of Order.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's the next agenda item.
No, I hadn't heard of this, so I was just wondering what was preempting the look and see whether we're doing things the right way or not. So anyway, that I get it now. Any other questions? So right now, do you need anything from us, or do we have to vote to approve what we're already doing? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what this is. Just advisory at this point.
Correct.
Okay, it's just advisory at this point. Any questions regarding that? Okay, all right, then we'll move on. The next item. Sorry, flipping back and forth.
Trainings for incoming board. So I've started working with Ms. Beckman on what that would look like. What we've come to is we believe we're going to have 3 different trainings. Mr. Rowe is working on the county code and I think Robert's Rules, maybe he thought. But we were going to have a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act, and an Open Meetings Act training. That's important because as elected members, you all do have to go through that training that is required. So we're gonna see if the AG can do it. If not, we do have a presentation they did previously. We're just gonna make sure it's updated, so we'll be good to go on that one. Another one we're gonna do, of course, is county code. We're gonna go over Robert's Rules, and then we're also gonna have a board procedure. So that way, it's a great refresher for those of you who have been on the board, and it's a great introduction to those of you who are incoming board members. So we think it's just a good time to come. That way, if you have questions or we need it's just going to hopefully be an informative session. Mr. Rowe is going to also help present, and then I'm working with Ms. Beckman on different issues that we may need to address, and then how to do the trainings. So we're trying to decide if we want to have them all kind of on 1 month, we're going to have one per month. And we also are trying to see what we can do, because with the subject matter and kind of the interaction that we want to have allowed, we're going to try to see if we can maybe have it with a little bit more in-person like participation, or try to be able to figure out how to work that out. So that's what we're going to be in the process of doing. But just so you know, it's going to be coming, and we really need your participation. Like I said, it is required by the different sunshine laws, which is what your FOIA and your Open Meetings Act are, that elected officials have to have training. So everyone hopefully will participate in that.
All righty. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Counselor, just got a question. Having been a former state employee and having received sexual harassment training every year and received certifications for that training, in as much that I've had previous training, is it mandatory that I undergo the sexual harassment training by a date certain?
I'm going to defer to Ms. Beckman if she knows that. I don't know that off the top of my head. I do know that our county, both elected officials, department head, and employees, they just had to complete theirs recently. It's an online. One time we had somebody from insurance came and presented. We recorded that and it's been online. It's a really easy and really well laid out training. Anita, do you know if they've completed training for another requirement, if that is transferable to this?
Yes, what we need here is the certificate to keep in your file that shows you have completed a training that meets the criteria of the Illinois Act. And if you provide that, and we have several employees that have, that would suffice.
Let me ask you this, Anita, with all due respect, retired from state of Illinois December of 2011. I'm not sure if I can retrieve that document or the certificate, but it was mandatory. I can't remember when it was enacted, but you know, it seems like what I'm going to have to do is just do the training here and just be done with it.
Right.
Yeah.
The law requires that you complete the training beginning in 2020 every single year. So your certificate from 2011 will not suffice. You need to undergo the training in 2020, in 2021, and every year after.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Nancy, on that one as well. We'll look forward to the training. Next item is authorizing the county board chairman to sign an intergovernmental agreement with Kankakee County Animal Control and the Village of Bourbonnais. Is that distributed? It's not completed yet. Okay. I don't know how I can vote on something that's not here in front of us. So I'm gonna have to move on from that. I just, the committee needs to be able to read what that agreement is. So, and the sheriff had to leave. I don't know why, but he could have spoken to it, but apparently there's something that came up that was, or else he would have just zipped out of here. So we'll try and get that information to you. I will say, let's have a brief discussion on this topic, because I would like to be able to bring it to the full board and not waste another month. Is that acceptable with the committee? We talk about it and don't vote on anything? Because I'm privy to a lot of the particulars, but the numbers we can plug in when we get to that point of the full board. Is that acceptable? Does everyone know the genesis of this situation? Ms. Parker, you know, I tell you what, Tinker, do you want to explain a little bit about the process? I know you've talked about it at AWAC. You might be better served to do that than me.
Yes, yes, we have been talking about this for going on our 4th year. And this is an agreement between municipalities or villages, such as our first one was Buckley, where they don't have their own animal control person, so they can rely on Kankakee County Animal Control, where they would pay a fee based on their activity, and that we would take care of that particular situation in their area, such as Bourbonnais right now. Anything that would have to do with animals that, you know, perhaps they're not able to handle, they would call our animal control. And again, each village municipality will have a different level of how much that fee per year will be.
And that's what we'll get into. Basically, and I don't know the way this one is structured, but in a lot of these villages and municipalities, a resident has to call the village, and then they have to okay calling of an animal control, because ultimately the village has to pay that fee that animal control assesses, because we don't levy taxes for animal control. It's purely based on you know, licenses and fees and, you know, citations and things like that. So we provide that service in the rural area, you know, ad hoc, you know, we just do it for dogs running wild and things like that. But in the municipalities, we have to be invited. And in this case with Shabance and Buckingham, we have an agreement where they pay us to be their animal control arm on a regular basis. I'm hoping this one in Bourbonnais is one where the residents can call us directly. That's the best way to do it. And we're able to respond, you know, for most cases, in most situations in a timely fashion without having to involve the municipality. So
exactly.
Is that pretty, and by the way, this is one of there were a few reasons why this board decided to move animal control to the sheriff. One was enforcement. We wanted to be able to arrest and convict the dog fighters. We wanted to be able to protect the animals, and we needed that level of professionalism and training for the animal control officers that were deeply committed and hardworking, but they didn't have that access to the training as the sheriff's department is able to provide. The structure. The second thing is that we needed to establish relationships with the shelters, because in 20 years of the prior administration, there were no relationships with the local shelters. Zero. It was awful. Then the third part about it was to, we were looking at, how to build those bridges with the municipalities so we can have these types of agreements, so we can 24/7 animal control in all the municipal governments. That was another ultimate goal of that whole thing. And it looks like we're picking off a few of those as we've gone in basically, what, a year?
Yes.
So it is working what we decided to do as a board. So, Mr. Hess, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Chairman. I looked this online when Kelly sent this out in the packet for this meeting, but it's not ready for here. My question was, will that form that was online be the same form for all municipalities? Because I noticed
No.
the name.
The residents that are in Grant Park or Moment, so each will be different.
But I think what he's getting at is, in substance, is that going to be the same structure of the agreement, and they'll just fill in different numbers?
That will be the core of it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But then they could add or delete whatever that is not necessary or what is necessary.
There could, some municipality could say, we still want you to call us before we call animal control. I can't say. I don't know what's going to happen that way. But in essence, that's correct. Any other thoughts on this? So while we're not going to vote on it, at least you have a good understanding as executive, and do you agree that this is in line with the goals that has been put forward by this board in the past, as far as animal control goes? Okay.
It's a great move.
All right. Thanks all, and for everybody for your hard work on this, especially AWAC and the Sheriff's Department, animal control, everybody involved. And we hope there are more to come. I would venture to say next year we're going to be talking with other municipalities, and we'll get more on board. It'd be nice to have this be countywide 24/7 with officers working a second shift as well. But you can't do that without revenue, because there is no tax levy to fund that, if that makes sense. So, moving on. Approval of an ordinance establishing a property assessed clean energy program and PACE area. Now, Ben, I'll let you take over and explain a little bit about what this is, and I understand you have a couple of ringers that you brought in to help establish the credibility of the program, or something we've already approved. Now, the lender, we just need to approve the program countywide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we do have a couple subject matter experts. Certainly, the chairman and I talk about good ideas all the time, and like to bring programs in front of the committee and the board. But we have Anna Maria Kowalik and Jason Stringer from IECA with us today. On September 8th, we the board passed a service contract with IECA to be our PACE administrator. And we're now kind of taking the next steps. And what's very nice about this, and I won't steal too much thunder from the group, is this is a program that's gaining traction in the state. And we're now to a point where IECA has several county partners, municipal partners, and we have a nice form document. This is kind of the latest and greatest. And we're able to implement a program. And actually, the one that you have in front of you, Nancy Nicholson from the State Attorney's Office and I went through, and then Anita and I went through. This is the Cook County document, which was just recently passed. So we were able to do a little finer replacing on it in the document. But this is the latest adopted program. And certainly I'll turn it over to Anna Maria or Jason, however you prefer, talk a little bit about the program. But this is the ordinance establishing our authority to implement a PACE program. So we have a vendor to implement the program on the services side, and now we pass an ordinance which has some kind of companion documents that show off the energy assessment, the note form, and a few other things that allow us to implement kind of a full-blown program, use our legal authority under the PACE Act, and then collect those tax revenues on behalf of this fully voluntary program.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This is Anna Maria Kowalik speaking with you today, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present, and thank you for signing on to our program, the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority. Actually, just a couple of reminders before I get started, and that is that this program is entirely free of charge and free of obligation to the county in any way, shape, or form. We are a state tax exempt non-for-profit 501c3 organization. And basically what we do is provide program administration for all of, for the individual governmental entities, in this case, the taxing authorities, which are the counties in the state of Illinois. Although we also offer the facilitation for all stakeholders in the process. That is the commercial property owners, their capital providers, lenders, and contractors involved in the energy efficiency projects that are being financed through private equity monies under this program. And so the IECA acts as that go-between all parties to get everyone on the same page and have the project financed and the property in your jurisdiction improved, giving your constituents equal access and opportunity to be able to avail themselves of this particularly unique financing opportunity. So that having been said, would you like me to give a short presentation, Ben, just to show what the program's all about and to remind everyone, or if they've never seen it before?
It's really the pleasure of the chairman. Mr. Wheeler, what are your thoughts? I know that we did go through at length in going through the contract, but what's your pleasure, sir?
I would say give the cliff notes of what the program is and what it allows. How, just I'm talking, if it's a minute and a half. If we get into a larger discussion and questions, we'll address that.
That will be wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. So I would just say that commercial property assessed clean energy, PACE or CPACE, with the commercial in front, is a program that provides up to 100% financing for the commercial property owner who decides to improve his property with energy efficiencies and or renewable energy components to the project. This also applies to new construction projects and is a great side-by-side financing tool, which does not replace any other rebates, incentives or grants of any sort, but work side by side with all of those in the capital stack. Commercial properties include retail, office, industrial, even multifamily that are rental units over 4 units, so 5 and above. And so anything that is an income producing property, although nonprofit organizations are also eligible, the only ineligible properties are governmental or public buildings because they are not on the tax rolls. And so basically this, the PACE statute here in the state of Illinois has enabled PACE statewide. The IECA has brought program administration according to that PACE statute now to 5 counties officially. So we have a program up and running in DuPage, Kane, McHenry, Will, and now and soon to be announced in January, we'll have the launch of suburban Cook County. City of Chicago has its own PACE program. But there are other counties in various stages, such as yourselves. Kankakee, Stevenson, Lee, Ogle, Winnebago, LaSalle, and Kendall. And so we expect another 6 counties at least by the end of first quarter to be on board, as well as another dozen by the end of next year.
Great, I appreciate that. So a little bit, let's stop there for a second. Does the board have any questions about the program itself, how this works? It's little self-imposed special taxing districts surrounding a commercial development. And it could be somebody that's either wanting to do windows, geothermal, roofs, anything that has to do with energy efficiency. It fills out the funding stack, if you will, things that typically aren't found from the banks or other lenders. So if that's a summary that I would throw out there, and it's something that we have the authority to make countywide for all municipalities. It's a really nice tool for all of our economic development people to have. You don't want one city or the rural area to have it. You want everybody to be on the same playing field. So this is something that everybody could take an advantage of. Really spurs small business development. It's especially those ones who are, just starting out for the first time in a small, not a large commercial capacity. Ben, do you have anything else on that explanation?
Well, yeah, and just in leveling the playing field, and that's really the kind of the play with IECA here is it's not just, wouldn't just be us. So with having the other suburban counties and neighboring counties involved in this, we as an area will be able to pitch the same tool with the same program parameters. So if you're working with a developer, it's not, well, Will County's offering me that, what can you offer me? We're all offering the same tool. And yeah, it really fills that mezzanine component with low interest financing where companies can make deals work. I mean, this is a very popular thing for hoteliers where the capital stack's very difficult to fill, and they're able to use 25% CPACE in the cap stack, and that lowers that mezzanine level, gets the equity position down to where the hotelier doesn't have to bring 40% money to the table. So it really does encourage that new development as well as some traditional redevelopment.
Yes, that's all correct. And actually, you gentlemen have put it perfectly. I would only add, as a little bit of a clarification, that when you said, Chairman, the special taxing district, basically, this does not affect anyone outside of the PIN number or numbers involved with the property that is actually undergoing the improvement.
Right.
And so it doesn't affect your neighbors, it doesn't affect anyone else but putting the special assessment for the repayment of this special type of loan on that individual property's tax.
All right, so Mr. Kinzinger.
Yeah, I may have missed something, but there are surrounding counties that have already instituted this program.
Yes, I mentioned them all, DuPage, Payne, Will, McHenry, Suburban, Cook. This specific program, our program under the Illinois Energy Conservation Authority. And there are multiple other counties involved at various stages of implementing it as well. And we'll have many more join in 2021.
Are you able to point to, just the committee was wondering, like a specific win that this ended up, making happen? Has anybody really landed something that has either been a mom and pop that are able to do something or a large commercial development?
Yes, so actually I can tell you about both. So over the past year, that the program has been specifically active because the PACE legislation came about in 2017. It took a couple of years for the program to be created, developed, and then finally implemented and approved by the first counties, DuPage and Kane. And so since last year, actually, we've had 6 closings under our program. And it's been wonderful. The very first one that happened in DuPage was a solar energy improvement. It was a roof replacement with solar panels being added. Small industrial facility, only about 25,000 square feet. And their project was worth about $318,000. They were able to get these panels and have since really saved on electricity in their facility. And so it's been of extreme help. And actually, the owners are very happy to also talk to anyone who has any questions about the program. There was a very small, the second DuPage deal was a small office building, about 14,000 square feet in Elmhurst, Illinois, where they just did retrofit of their windows. Just the windows alone, which had been leaking in a 1968 build facility, has saved so much on gas and electricity that their bills are next to nothing. And they are so happy that they were able to make this improvement. Another great use of CPACE funds. And just this past Thursday, we haven't even put a case study together or haven't been able to launch the press release yet. But many of you may be familiar in neighboring Kane County, the old Copley Hospital and the redevelopment that's being done there. It's being called Avalon Heights. They've done a complete redevelopment with new housing, with, this is a $100 million project that has used actually $3 million in PACE. So this is our largest closing to date. And it has gone for basically building envelope improvements in new construction, HVAC, LED lighting, and various components. So, yes, CPACE has been a great partner thus far. We have many more deals in the pipeline that are going to come to fruition in 2021, and we would love to include some Kankakee deals hopefully soon.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm sorry?
I said you're welcome.
Oh, okay, sorry, thought there was somebody else talking. Any other questions? If I could first, can I get a motion to approve on this, and then we'll move into more discussion? Mr. Kinzinger? Second? Mr. Long. Okay, sorry about that. Do business the right way here. I think we've talked about it quite enough. I mean, I'm just curious. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it. You know, we're not on the hook. The people who've decided to put that individual's taxing district on themselves are on the hook, if you will. This allows us to collect it over the period. So it's really not, we're facilitating, we're not owning any risk. Mr. Kinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am 100% behind this program and think it's an excellent idea for the county to enter into. I do have some questions as it relates to the document itself, and perhaps that can be addressed with Mr. Wilson and Ms. Nichols. So I don't know how that works. I don't want to take up the committee's time for my own issues.
Sure. I think that's fair enough. Nancy and Ben, if we can reach out and schedule something. Ron,
yeah, it will. I know Mr. Kinzinger had commented before, and so we'll go through it, and Nancy and I will make any final adjustments we need. We think we've got it exactly where it needs to be, but we've got a little bit of time, so we'll just note those changes at the full board meeting. And then we can kind of vote appropriately. And I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I just want to point out, we've got $500 million on the top. I talked with the team from ICA on this. Cook County they said, you know what, we want a number big enough that we don't have to do a new ordinance every time. We're not obligated to lend $500 million. We're not obligated to do anything. We're certainly not obligated to borrow. But it is a pretty big, staggering number in the title. So if anybody's concerned about that, that's just, so we over the life of the PACE program, I hope we run out of that money, and we'll pass a new ordinance appropriately. But right now, it's a big enough number. We think we've got enough, let's call it enough runway to get some deals done.
And if I might add, once the ordinance is approved, program is in place, we will be deciding with your county committee what, if anything, you would wish to charge for your services on the program. And so there's a potential income stream here for you. Of course, at the beginning, it won't be very large. Maybe there will be one deal next year or maybe 2 or 3 the following. But we've noticed that this program seems to progress annually on an almost geometric progression. It escalates quite quickly. But the fact is that for each tax collection period, so if it's a semi-annual collection, you can charge a slight fee, and that's the only ever recurring fee on this program, because any other fees are charged up front as part of the closing of the deal. So this could potentially, be a good thing as well for the county. Sure. No cost and the opportunity to put a little cash away.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Yes, I'm available immediately after these meetings or at any time that they're available to discuss these issues.
Okay. Yeah, just a couple of some of the terms I had questions about, and we'll clear that up and we'll get back to.
I'll run up after executive, Ron. So
okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Alrighty, we have a motion and a second. If we're ready, I'll do roll call on Zoom first. Go ahead. Thank you.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
In the room, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good day and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye now.
I can tell you that our economic development, the Alliance, anybody involved in that appreciates it as well. This is a nice tool for them to trot out when they need to, especially when you're looking at redeveloping older buildings in certain areas, turning them into lofts, those types of things. There's a lot of this up front that was typically not covered under a
yes, absolutely stack. The best. Thank you so much.
Now, old business. Approval of e-waste intergovernmental agreement. Mr. Coughlin is on, and he's been working with us on this. I know we've talked about it before. Can give you a quick summary if you would like. Do people want to hear about what this e-waste thing is again? Okay, well, basically, we're to the point where we actually have the agreements that we're sending out to the mayors and their attorneys of Karma, the Metro Wastewater Utility, and the mayors associated with Karma, Kankakee, Bradley, Bourbonnais, Roma Park, and then the mayor of Manteno and all their legal representatives. This is the draft that we have sent out on the agreement. And so basically we have to be up and running in January. This will get us to that point. They are going to come back to us with red lines in this agreement. We're going to hash out between now and our full board meeting what changes need to exist. Sorry, the Zoom just flashed on us there. It went away for a minute. But what we're looking at is to be able to say this is our agreement. We're good with this. The changes that come back will be described in the full board meeting, but we need to keep on a timeline. That's why I had to get this to you today in order for us to be able to approve at the full board with the changes that the legal representatives of those municipalities have put forward. So with that, can I get a motion first so we don't forget to do that, to approve? Mr. Hess, a second? Anyone on Zoom?
Pope.
Ms. Pope, thank you.
Questions?
So yeah, Ben, is there anything that you want to add to that description? You know, this is a county-wide e-waste recycling where we've opened up bids. Belson was chosen as the provider. We have to do a contract with them, so that'll come back, after this. But basically, we've got to, get the municipalities and, you know, the villages on board with what that language is. But so residents don't have to, you know, not don't have to. We're trying to get people to not throw stuff in ditches countywide. All they got to do is show up with their driver's license, show up to Belson with a TV, and it's free if they're part of this program. So we're trying to get it countywide. All the mayors are aware of it that we've talked to, and then they would have to pass this intergovernmental agreement at the city or municipal level in order for them to be part of the program. And we have determined for 2 years what that contribution would be. After 2 years, we're going to circle back, and we're going to be taking data the whole time and figuring out where's the e-waste coming from in the county, and is it working. There's also a little bit of extra money the first 2 years on marketing to get it out there, whether it's mailers, magnets, however we determine, come up with a nice snazzy name for it when we launch it officially. So that's kind of it's a thing that we're all going to do together as a county, which I love that stuff, and we all should. That's what we should strive to do. And it's for the benefit of the residents, and it costs a little bit to have this program managed, but it's saving over what was being spent before from the municipality side of things. They're going in half, and they're going to go down more after 2 years potentially. It's new money for the county because the county rural areas were using it in Bradley and in Bourbonnais where they're putting their e-waste, but they weren't paying for it. So it is new money for us that we put in the budget already. So you know that. We've already approved the budget, and it's in the budget. So this is the contract. So we do have the motion in the second. Please, any questions for Ben, John Coughlin? Please, anyone in the committee? Mr. Kinzinger.
Whenever I see the term flat fee, there's a basis by which that is determined, and in one particular case, there's a flat fee mentioned. How was flat fee determined? Is it per capita? What is it?
What we did the first time was Karma was spending X amount of dollars, I don't have that here in front of me, on this program, but everybody was using it. So I used just a presumption that let's pay half of what they were doing before. And then Manteno was doing this for their residents, curb pickup, and they had a price that was about maybe 30 cents higher per resident of their village, if you will, as opposed to what Karma was doing. So the fee structure was, okay, let's reduce both of those in half. There's got to be a savings, right? And then to see exactly what that would spread out to make the rest of the county look like, and base the cost of the rest of the county over what the cost that these guys were paying per resident. So I looked at cost per, there's a total cost, reduce it in half, what is that cost per resident, and then apply that to the rest of the villages in the county.
So Bradley, for instance, had a population of X, it'd be X times that number.
Well, they're part of Karma, so that's where
the one's out of Karma.
Yeah, so I use Karma as Manteno as the baseline.
Good. Thank you.
And then spread that out to the other municipalities. And obviously, if you're in a smaller town, 900 people, you're going to be paying just over $1,000 a year. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It's not that much for what you get.
Thank you.
Now I will say that Shabance already has this, but you can only put out one, I think, item a year, maybe two. It's not much. And TVs are all disposable now. You can't fix a TV, I don't think. And it's not just that. There's other electronic waste, but so we're hoping to have them be part of this as well. They may not come along because again, they already have something. So, but I'm hopeful that we got everybody else. Mr. Hess.
Thank you again, Chairman. Just occurred to me, what about like townships? If they collect stuff, like I'll use Mr. Seroy's, I have a part of my area that gets things dumped along the edge of the road. If the township picks that up, will they be able to take that to Belson?
Yeah, they'll be able to take it there as well. Yep, it'll all be free. The only ones we're trying to eliminate are those ones who are, let's just say, maybe brokering for others outside of the area. That's why we're keeping track of exactly who's bringing us what. We are going to keep track. I mean, that's something we have to do. So if we find that, one person has brought me 700 TVs this year, we might have to have some conversations. And it's very similar. And then like the Village of Bradley said, we want to keep our site as well. So again, they're going to be able to take those Gaylord boxes that are there, and they'll go right to Belson ready to go. This program that I think it's another 5 years, Ben, total, or 7 years? I can't remember.
It's 6. I think we got 6 full years left.
6 full years left. Basically, the transportation is taken care of. So that's where the big savings is coming from, where the collection spot is to the ultimate recycler. That's a big saving. So all we got to do is get it to that one collection spot of Belson, and then the state's program takes care from there. And that's why we have the outs in here. If the program ever goes away, then this has to be relooked at from the state side, because then all of a sudden it's probably more than it was before. So it's been working on this a little while. It's just,
Mr. Chairman, could I just for a second?
Yes, sir.
I want to point out, because Andy brought this to our attention when we were talking through it. As we do this, and then we subsequently work on the contract with Belson, the vendor, we just want to make sure that the county's not, ending holding the bag for all waste, because that's essentially what happened to Karma, right? They're collecting for their jurisdictions, and we end up with they're responsible for everybody's waste. We want to make sure that each of the jurisdictions that's involved is contributing a fair share based on that per capita number, and that way everybody bears a little bit of this. But to Mr. Hess's point, if it goes away, every TV that we collect at County Highway, or that the township collects, or the village or the cities collect, won't have anywhere to go. And so we have to keep a program local in order to do that. So if it is dumped, we can still get rid of the waste.
Yeah. I didn't approach townships to contribute to this. We as the county looked at it like we can handle that. That might be something that we look to do after this 2-year agreement is up, to involve the townships, because I think they have man hours invested in this to go out and pick these things up out of ditches. My hope is that people stop throwing them in the ditches, because you can bring it in with scrap and actually get paid to drop some of this stuff off.
Any these are over.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Mr. Featherling.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So we have a motion in a second? Okay, sorry, I don't want to talk it into the ground, but I want to make sure everybody knew what was up. There could be changes, and probably will be changes when we get to the full board on this. So if we could, we have a motion in a second. Roll call on Zoom.
Ms. Polk?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
All those in the room, actually, let's do a roll call in the room too, just to make sure, in case there is some money
Mr.
tied to
Hess?
this.
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye. Motion carries. I need a motion per 5 ILCS 120/2C5, purchase or lease of real estate property for the use of the public body, an executive session. Is there a motion? Mr. Carrico, second. Mr. Long, and that would be a roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Alrighty, we'll change over and we'll try to make this quick, folks. All right, we are back from executive session. Everybody is still present. Looks like all board members and legal counsel. Other business, does anybody here have other business? I was gonna mention something to this committee under other business, and I'm sorry to drag it out, but it's gotta be said. Okay, I have something. This laminate that we have done here, okay? If anybody wants one of these laminated, we'll get it for you, okay? The last time, there wasn't a lot of participation, but I've added something to it. I asked Kelly to put on the back what our county code is as far as decorum in a meeting, what previous boards have voted on, and what your responsibility is as leaders of this board on the executive committee. You guys have the ability to take control of a meeting and to make sure that we're absolutely doing things the way that we've agreed to in the past, and treating each other with the respect that we should be treating each other with. And while I'm not going to call any one individual out, but I will say, that, no member shall speak twice on the same question until all members who wish to speak have done so. Okay? That's very important, because we have some that have forgotten that, dominating the conversation is not part of our county code. There's 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 follow-up questions. You get, we'll try to be lenient, but at times there is going to have to be a point of order made by the board, point of personal privilege made by the board. Some things have happened here that were quite disturbing, frankly. No member shall speak more than 5 minutes a second time. Whenever that 5 minutes and 1 second is up, it's up to the board members to say, point of order, our county code, section 2-67, and we've already gone over 5 minutes for the second time this individual has spoken. I'm sorry we have to do this, but it seems that some want to use this as a pulpit to take control of a meeting and bully other board members, and it's just not going to happen. So other certain motions, we've talked about this. Motion to adjourn, motion to recess, call the question. They shall be decided without debate or explanation of why you're voting. It's just not going to happen anymore, because then that goes on for 5 minutes talking about why you're going to vote not to end debate when 2/3 of the board is required to end the debate in the first place. I believe that's on the front.
It's only a majority.
End debate, 2/3.
Yep.
So the other one is voting is required unless you are directly in a conflict with an immediate family member. Voting is required. Present is not a proper vote. Mr. Lear.
You mentioned the 2/3. Was that looking on the front page or the back? Because as I read the section 269, a motion to call the previous question, under our rules only requires a majority of the votes of members present.
Okay, so I see what you're saying.
Our code is more restrictive in terms of...
We made our code more restrictive.
Yes.
Right, it's a simple majority, correct. You are correct, sir. We can, our county code defers to Robert's Rules of Order unless we want to restrict it further, which we did. Instead of 2/3, it's a simple majority.
Now, obviously, if someone wanted to make a motion and change our county code, that would be a appropriate motion.
Absolutely, and that would start here at the executive committee. That's where that motion starts with, so. Or I guess the board, over half the board could petition the executive committee to put something on the agenda. But the voting required, that's important.
It's more restrictive because you cut off.
We cannot vote present unless, or say I do not want to vote on this. You just don't be here. If you don't want to vote on something, don't be here. That's all I can say. We're required to vote. People elect us to be able to vote in their behalf. Amendments, all of that stuff in Robert's Rules, it's pretty self-explanatory. I had to talk about those other things because it got kind of, well, not how we should be running meetings together and treating each other. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Mr. Hess, Mr. Long, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Give us a few minutes and we'll try to start finance.